I never imagined how TRIJETS could transform my life, until the day they shattered my dreams. I will never forget that day. The air was thick with tension, as if the world had held its breath. My heart raced. Every beat felt like a countdown to disaster. It started with whispers. Strange stories floated around, murmurs of a machine that could change everything. Time travel, alternate realities, how could that be real? Yet here I was, staring at an image on my screen. A glimmering jet, sleek and mysterious. It was only a prototype back then. A promise wrapped in a shroud of secrecy. My friends were skeptical. It's a scam, they said, rolling their eyes. But not me. I was desperate for change. My life was a constant loop of the same monotonous days. I craved something more: adventure, excitement, escape. So I took the plunge, risking everything. I stepped into the TRIJETS office, a place buzzing with possibility. The air hummed with electric potential. Sense of metal and ambition clashed in a dizzying cocktail. I could feel it in my bones. This was it. But then, confusion set in. The stories grew darker. People vanished after taking flights. Their lives disintegrated into nothingness. They say don't speak of the past when talking about time travel, but still whispers echoed my name. A trembling hand reached towards me, growing distant, until it disappeared forever. Hope started to fray. Was I about to lose everything? My heart clutched tight. The more I learned, the more chilling the truths became. I had friends whom I loved, who believed in me. Would I leave them behind in the past? It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, teetering between fear and liberation. How much was I willing to sacrifice? Then, just as I thought I was grasping the reins of my fate, a message lit up my screen. A message that could undo everything. We need to talk. It's about TRIJETS. Trust me. My stomach turned. Who was this? What did they know? A flood of questions surged. I felt like I was spiraling down a rabbit hole. Time was slipping through my fingers. I took a deep breath, my lungs felt frozen. My reality hinged on the brink, teetering precariously. Could I face whatever awaited me? Silence loomed heavily around me. I gripped the phone, my hands trembling. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The message pulsed on my screen, each glimmering word a dagger of uncertainty stabbing deep into my gut. We need to talk. It's about TRIJETS. Trust me. Who was this mysterious figure? My mind replayed all the dark stories, those who had vanished, leaving nothing but whispers like ghostly echoes lingering in the void. That I was paralyzed, stared into the abyss of my own indecision. I thought of Will, my best friend since childhood, whose laughter had always been the anchor in my turbulent sea of thoughts. He had been the first to warn me about TRIJETS. It's not worth it, he had said, concern wrinkling his face. What if it goes wrong? What if you end up lost somewhere in time? Yet, here I was, caught in a web of my desires, craving to break free while feeling as if I might shatter completely. The phone vibrated again, almost mocking me. I glared at it, the screen illuminating my darkening thoughts. I made a decision: I had to meet this person. Perhaps it was the key to understanding the chaos surrounding TRIJETS. So, I texted back, hands trembling with the weight of uncertainty. Where and when? As the hours dragged on, each moment felt like a lifetime. Uncertainty gnawed at my insides. I decided to take a walk, hoping the fresh air would soothe my overly active mind. The city buzzed around me, a tapestry of life, urgency, and vibration. I took in the colors, the laughter, the bustling streets. Despite the weight on my shoulders, there were pockets of joy and connection, like glimpses of light through an overcast sky. To my surprise, I stumbled upon a small cafe, its window fogged up with warmth. The enticing scent of roasting coffee and something sweet wafted through the air. It felt inviting, a refuge from the storm brewing inside me. I pushed the door open, letting the bell jingle announce my arrival. As I waited for my drink, the barista, a woman with an empathetic smile, approached me. "You look like you need one of our special brews, tough day?" Her observant gaze felt like a balm to my aching spirit. I chuckled softly, surprised at how nice it felt to share my burden, even briefly. "You could say that. Just trying to figure out life." With a nod, she began preparing my drink. It was a small moment, but in a world unraveling before me, her kindness radiated warmth, a reminder that even when things feel chaotic, there are still pieces of goodness. As I left the cafe, drink in hand, my phone buzzed once again. It was a simple message, an address and a time. The trapdoor of my emotions swung wide open. This was it. I could meet this stranger who could very well change everything. But my heart raced with both excitement and dread. The sun began to dip low in the sky, crimson hues bleeding into the horizon. I arrived at the abandoned warehouse, the address looking inconspicuously nondescript. My breath quickened as I walked inside, the rusted ambience enveloping me. Shadows darted in the corners, and a feeling of déjà vu washed over me. How much of my life had felt like a shadow play? I moved deeper into the belly of the space, my pulse quickening every step I took. Then I saw Thema figure standing beside strange machinery that hummed ominously. "You came," the figure said, their voice a calm amidst my storm. "You need to know the truth about TRIJETS." Before I could respond, the figure stepped into the light, revealing a familiar face. My heart dropped. It was Ava, my colleague who had gone missing weeks ago. I thought I'd never see her again, submerged in the haunting stories about the machine. Yet there she stood, alive, yet radiating an unsettling aura. "Is this a trick?" I stammered, fear coiling tightly around my heart. She stepped closer, the tension crackling in the air. "No, it's real, and they're coming for you. We need to move now." Suddenly, my world pivoted, and I realized this was no longer just about choosing to fly into the unknown, it was a fight for survival. As I followed her into the shadows, questions roared in my mind. What had happened to her? What were the real stakes of TRIJETS? The air thickened, an undercurrent of impending chaos spiraled in my gut. And my heart sank further as the realization struck me, the past was not the only thing I would have to reckon with. As I stepped deeper into the darkness beside Ava, confusion twisted in my mind like a storm. My heart hammered against my ribs, every beat echoing louder than the humming machinery. She turned back, urgency etched into her features, her eyes gleaming with an unsettling mix of fear and determination. "We don't have much time," she insisted, glancing around warily. "I didn't think they'd find you so soon." "Who? Find me? What are you talking about?" I could barely breathe as I absorbed the words. It felt like a scene from a thriller novel, yet the dread wrapping around me was all too real. Ava grabbed my arm, urgency pulsing through her grip. "They're after anyone who even thinks about TRIJETS. You're in danger, and if you stay here." Her voice trailed off, the unspoken implications hanging heavy in the air. I could sense its staggering weight of secrets laced with betrayal. "What happened to you?" I blurted out, my voice laden with desperation. "You disappeared. Everyone thought you were gone for good." Her gaze softened momentarily, a flicker of sorrow breaking through her tightly woven armor. "I wish I could explain everything right now, but there's no time. You need to trust me. We have to leave, and I can't promise you'll understand it all, but I'll do my best to make you see." I swallowed hard, scanning the vast emptiness surrounding us. The labyrinth of machinery merged with shadows that felt like watchful eyes. Do I really have a choice? With a slight nod, Ava began to lead me away from the hulking machines, her pace quick and determined. Once you start digging too deep into TRIJETS, there's no turning back. Just know you aren't just fighting your own curiosity. You're standing at the edge of something far more dangerous. I followed her into a narrow corridor, dimly lit and lined with faded posters that echoed a bygone era of wonder and innovation. The posters promised adventure and discovery, unraveling threads of possibility with every carefully scripted line. Yet, here in the shadows, the sinister reality loomed far greater than the creeping excitement in me. A chill swept through the corridor, filling my lungs with ice as the temperature dropped. Ava, I gasped, looking to her for reassurance. What did you find? Why does it feel like we're on the wrong side of something so big? Her expression hardened, voice low and hushed. Because some doors were never meant to be opened. The truth about TRIJETS, it's dangerous. People like us were expendable. As dread knotted in my stomach, echoes of laughter from the past resurfaced. I thought of Will's words, how he tried to keep me anchored when my own whims threatened to take me adrift. But what about the others? The ones who vanished? Are they? Ava's eyes darkened, and she shook her head. We can't focus on that now. We need to move before they find us. Questions spiraled, burdening me, but amidst the chaos stirring in my mind, a flicker of misplaced hope glimmered. If we can just find out what's happening, it's not that simple. She snapped, her voice cracking under the weight of her urgency. What I found, what I know, might be the last thing that changes your life forever. And it may end mine. The tremor in her voice sent chills coursing through me more than any machine ever could. We rounded a corner into a stark-lit room, the air suddenly electric. An array of screens flickered to life, illuminating the space and casting eerie shadows on the walls. I squinted, scanning the frantic visuals projected, revealing snippets of people, their faces pale, eyes filled with fear. Ava's breath quickened, and she pointed. Look. That's where it started, where they first manipulated time. They didn't just create TRIJETS, they created something far worse. But before she could elaborate, the deafening sound of footsteps thundered from the corridor behind us. My heart sank. Fear coursed through my veins as the adrenaline surged. We have to hide. Ava's eyes blazed with an intensity one had never seen. There's no time. We need to confront the truth if we're going to survive. The decision loomed before me, a fork in the road that felt insurmountable. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, the heavy footsteps echoed closer, and my pulse raced in my ears. Amid the chaos, the harsh reality pressed down, and I realized how deeply I had underestimated TRIJETS. We weren't just fighting for survival, we were grappling with our own destinies, and in that moment, I feared it might be already too late for both of us. As the door creaked open slowly, revealing ominous figures cloaked in shadows, I felt the ground beneath me begin to tremble. My heart raced, teetering on the precipice of despair and resolve. I held my breath, fearing that time itself was about to unravel around us, shattering whatever dreams I had left. The door swung open violently, revealing a figure wrapped in darkness, the cold steel glinting off the flickering lights. My stomach dropped as I recognized the silhouette, imposing, menacing, with an air of authority that could freeze the warmest heart. I felt Ava's grip tighten on my arm, her body tensed beside me. I barely dared to breathe. A low voice cut through the tension. You shouldn't be here. This is a restricted area. The words dripped with contempt, sending a shiver down my spine. The man stepped closer, his presence casting a shadow over not just the room, but my very soul. What do you want? Ava managed, her voice steadier than I felt. I admired her courage, but her bravery only deepened my apprehension that I came to retrieve something and someone. His gaze pinned me with an intensity that made me feel stripped bare. You have no idea what you've stumbled into, do you? Each word served to amplify my dread as I searched for understanding in Ava's eyes. Panic unfurled in my chest, clouding any rational thought as the realization settled I was a pawn in a greater game, and the stakes were rising. "I'm not going anywhere with you," I said, forcing defiance into my voice. But as I spoke, I felt the weight of uncertainty press in. What could a single voice do against an overwhelming force? The man chuckled darkly. "You really believe you have a choice in this? You're tangled in something that's beyond both of us." Ava deflected, desperately trying to distract. "He's not a threat, let him go." Her plea hung in the air, shattering any hope I had of standing my ground. Fury ignited within me. "Ava, stop." I didn't want her to plead for me, I needed her strength. "Whatever he wants, I can handle it." "No," she whispered, her face pale. "You don't understand." Before I could ask what she meant, the shadows shifted, and another figure emerged, a woman, fierce and resolute, moving with a confidence that made her seem almost ethereal among the dark. "This is enough, Magnus. We don't need to draw any more attention to ourselves." She glared at the man, her eyes flashing with a glimmer of rebellion. "Ava, you're putting us all at risk. Let's go now." The woman urged, her voice steady and commanding. The atmosphere crackled with tension as Magnus turned to the woman. "And you are? Another lost soul? The only risk here is your continued defiance." "Delilah," she said, and the fierceness in her gaze could melt steel. "And I suggest you step back if you want to keep your job." As Delilah spoke, a sense of hope unfurled in me, mingled with an equally powerful sense of foreboding. She wasn't the enemy, she was a sudden lifeline thrown into this chaos. Ava pulled away from me, as if suddenly making a decision. "We need to go." Delilah nodded, signaling us toward the exit, but Magnus took a step forward, blocking our path. "You think you can run? You're not even aware of what's coming for you." In that moment, my heartbeat echoed like thunder in the silence that followed. I glanced at Ava, whose face held a mix of determination and fear, and I knew we were dangerously out of our depth. But as we prepared to escape, a loud alarm began to blare, reverberating through the metallic walls. Red lights flashed, illuminating the room and transforming our retreat into a frantic scramble. "We need to split up," Delilah shouted. "They'll not know to follow all of us." "No." I refused to let myself be divided from Ava again, the thought sending clawing panic through my chest. "I'm not leaving her side, trust me." She insisted, her eyes pleading, reflecting a flicker of desperation beneath her determined exterior. "The moment you step outside, there might be safety waiting." Or before she could finish, Magnus lunged towards us, and in a whirlwind of instinct, Ava pulled me away as we sprinted toward the nearest doorway, adrenaline fueling our escape while determination pushed me to keep moving. That we rushed through the labyrinthine corridor, the cacophony of alarms still howling behind us, signaling our descent into the unknown. I was acutely aware of the pounding footsteps echoing behind, but amidst the chaos, a fleeting smile of understanding blossomed on Ava's face, a promise that we would find the truth together. "Keep going," she urged, casting a glance back that nearly stopped my heart. There was a resolute fierceness there, a desire to protect as much as to survive, and just when I thought we could slip away, a horrifying truth punched through the air. A figure stepped into our path. Will. Shock rippled through me, blending disbelief with a surge of longing and confusion. But the glimmer of hope dimmed as I noticed the coldness in his eyes, so unlike the Will I remembered. "You shouldn't have come back," he said, voice flat, devoid of warmth. Time seemed to freeze as I faced him, a maelstrom of emotions swirling within. "Will, please," I begged, feeling helpless against the tidal wave of reality crashing down. "Help us." But the indifference etched on his face carved a deep fear into my heart. I had thought TRIJETS held the weight of my future, but in that moment, it felt like the very ground was shifting beneath me, a thrumming reminder that this was more than a simple fight for survival. It was a relentless battle for the essence of who we were becoming, against the shadows that encroached ever closer, and just as I braced myself for the storm to break, Will stepped closer, revealing a glimmer of something in emotion that felt alarmingly familiar, but the moment was too fleeting. A decision loomed over us, and I could not yet fathom the consequences. Every fiber of my being screamed for understanding, but before I could utter another word, he turned away, shadows swallowing his silhouette as the alarms echoed louder, and I heard Ava's breath hitch beside me, apprehension boiling in the air as choices unraveled before us. The only certainty was that our world had just shifted beneath our feet, and the shadows of TRIJETS were deeper than I had ever realized. The frantic rush of escape drove me deeper into a veil of uncertainty. My heart raced as Ava and I pressed onward, minds swirling with questions we couldn't articulate. We darted between flickering emergency lights, the blaring alarms casting ominous shadows against the walls. Each pounding step echoed like a reminder that we were racing against more than just pursuers, we were challenging fate itself. "Where do we go now?" I gasped, my breath uneven and raw, the adrenaline still coursing through my veins. Ava's expression twisted in thought, her intelligence clear even through the adrenaline-fueled haze. "There's a vent system up ahead," she gasped. "We can hide there until the alarms stop. It leads to the old maintenance area. It's safer." I nodded, urgency mingling with trust. "Let's move." As we approached the nearest vent, I couldn't shake the vision of Will from my mind. His cold demeanor echoed in my chest, tightly woven with memories of laughter and friendship. I remembered the way he used to light up when he spoke about the future, his dreams like a lighthouse beckoning me toward the horizon. But now what had happened to him? It was as if the Will I knew had been replaced by a shadow version, imprisoned by the cruel machinations of TRIJETS. Ava squeezed through the vent first, and I quickly followed, the metal grating scraping against my skin as I shimmied my way into the narrower passage. It was dark and stuffy, the only sounds were our uneven breaths and the distant echoing of alarms. For a moment, I closed my eyes, squeezing my fists in an attempt to drown out the chaos. "Are you okay?" Ava whispered, her voice low. I nodded, although the trembling in my hands betrayed my true state. Just processing everything. As we crawled deeper into the ductwork, a sliver of hope began to thread through the anxiety. Ava had always been my anchor, and I could feel her strength bolstering me, pushing back the weight of dread that clung to my thoughts. "Will," I murmured, almost more to myself than to her, "he's not the same person, is he?" She replied softly, and her tone cut through the darkness. I hesitated. "I thought we could trust him." Now she interrupted before I could finish. "He's caught up in something much bigger than us, and it's scary. But don't lose faith. People change, sometimes, they lose themselves. But not everyone is beyond saving." Her words sparked something within me. Maybe, just maybe, there was hope for him. Maybe he was fighting an internal battle, just like I was. As we rounded a corner in the duct, the atmosphere shifted, it felt colder, like stepping into a hidden realm of darkness. But then, a soft light flickered in the distance, a promise of refuge. We crawled toward it, the tight space pressing in around us, the air thick with fear and determination. Reaching the exit, we hesitated for a moment, listening for sounds from below. The alarms still screamed, but they felt farther away now, as if our escape had carved a tiny haven out of the chaos. "On 3, Ava whispered, her voice steady against the panic that had seized me. 1, 2, 3. We pushed the vent cover aside and dropped into the dimly lit maintenance area. This place was a relic. Tools and machinery were scattered about like remnants of forgotten dreams. Graffiti on the walls spoke of rebellion and the fight for freedom, echoes of the lives once lived here stirring something within me, an undercurrent of defiance. "Look." Ava pointed toward the far corner. There, a hidden doorway seemed to lead to another uncharted passage. An ounce of hope ignited as we moved toward it, the adrenaline of survival pulling reflexively, but as we reached for the doorknob, the echo of footsteps quickened, an impending sense of doom rising behind us. My heart sank as I recognized the familiar stride. Magnus and his men were closing in. "They found us," I cried, panic tightening my chest. In that instant, before reason could catch up with fear, Ava opened the door, and we rushed through, plunging into an unfamiliar corridor. The air shifted. Instinct demanded us to keep running, but tangible. Despair anchored me back for a fleeting moment, the realization that we were still in the lion's den. Glancing over my shoulder, I caught sight of Magnus' shadow breaking through the light of the maintenance area. "Run!" Ava yelled, her voice urging me forward. We sprinted down the corridor, the drumming of our pulse matched by the heavy footsteps of our pursuers. Without warning, a door to the left burst open, and a figure lurched into our path. A woman with fierce eyes and dark hair, wearing a battle-scarred uniform and an expression that could rival Delilah's, materialized before us. "This way!" she commanded, urgency streaming from her every pore. With hardly a moment of hesitation, we followed her into another dimly lit passage as she led us deeper into the belly of TRIJETS, her presence an unexpected beacon amidst the looming darkness. But just as the clamor of pursuers grew fainter behind us, the woman stopped abruptly, turning with an intensity that made my breath hitch. "We don't have much time," she said, sharp and direct, scanning our faces. "You both don't know what you're getting into. This place is a labyrinth filled with more than just walls. It's alive, and it's watching you." Her words landed heavily in the space between us, a warning and a promise all at once. "What do you mean?" I managed to ask, but fear clawed up my throat, making it harder to speak. She leaned closer, her gaze piercing, and whispered, "The shadows have eyes, and they'll swallow anyone who dares to disobey." Before I could process her meaning, I noticed the distant echo of footsteps growing closer again. A cold chill rippled through my being, and I felt a rising wave of despair, like dark water pulling me under. "What do we do?" Ava asked, her voice trembling. The woman opened her mouth, but the sound of pounding footsteps grew louder, reverberating ominously through the corridor. It was a countdown to our fate, each echo a foreboding reminder that while the chase might lead us into the unknown, the secrets of TRIJETS were poised to unleash more turmoil than we could ever imagine. And just as dread spiraled and the darkness began closing in, she revealed a small device from her pocket, an intricate piece of technology vibrating with a faint glow. "This will help you," she said, and in that instant, the world shifted once again. "But it comes with a cost." My heart pounded at the prospect of something that could alter our path, but uncertainty surged through me. The walls were closing in, and I sensed that whatever lay ahead was fraught with peril that could claim far more than our safety. It could take every dream we had, shattering hope before we ever knew it existed. The tension crackled in the air as the woman's expression darkened. "Are you ready to unlock the truth?" And in that moment, despite the fear, a whisper of certainty sliced through the chaos. I nodded, knowing that each choice, the right or the wrong, could lead us closer to answers or to ruin. I just hoped I wasn't standing at the threshold of both. The dark passage swirled around us, a cacophony of uncertainty merging with the heavy echo of approaching boots. The woman's intense gaze bore into mine, a mixture of urgency and something unreadable flickering beneath the surface. This was not just a random escape, we were teetering at the edge of an abyss, one that shimmered with promises and dangers alike. "What is it?" I asked, voice barely breaking the heavy silence, my curiosity piqued despite the dread knotting in my stomach. "This device," she began, holding it out before us, "is a key. It can unlock information that TRIJETS has buried deep, secret, safeguarded by layers of surveillance. But you must choose wisely when using it. It has the power to expose truths, but it can also turn against you." Ava's eyes widened, suspicion knitting her brow. "And how do we know we can trust you? We don't even know your name." The woman hesitated, her jaw tightening at Ava's words. A flicker of vulnerability crossed her features, like a faint whisper of a memory she wanted to clutch but dared not reveal. "Imira," she finally breathed, her voice softening. "And trust is a luxury we can't afford right now." In the depths of my concern, her honesty resonated with me, igniting a flicker of hope. "What kind of truth?" I pressed, desperate for clarity amidst the chaos flooding our minds. "The truth about Will," she said, and the word struck me like a bolt from the blue. My breath hitched, the fear tightening within me. "He's not just an ally lost in darkness, has become a pawn, ensnared in a game far more deadly than you realize." TRIJETS doesn't just manipulate dreams, it twists the very fabric of loyalty. A swirl of disbelief crashed over me as my thoughts grappled with this revelation. But he was just what? Mira interrupted, her voice rising with urgency. He was just someone you trusted? He was just a friend? Her intensity was captivating and terrifying, piercing through my defenses as she continued, you need to prepare yourself. The changes you see in him are merely the surface, his true self is at war. And if you want to save him, you must first confront TRIJETS head-on. What do we have to do? I asked, heart racing as the weight of her words fell heavily upon my shoulders. The thought of not just losing Will, but of fighting against something rooted deep within him was like a blade twisting in my chest. The device is your guide, she replied, her tone steadying. But time is short. You need to reach the information hub in the heart of this complex before they can lock it down completely. It's the only way to understand the stakes, to confront what's been done. The footsteps grew unbearably close. Fear felt like an aching grip on my throat as I exchanged wide-eyed glances with Ava. What if we fail? She whispered, the vulnerability of her whisper in stark contrast to the strength she usually exuded. Mira's gaze softened for a fleeting moment, a brief chink in her armor of urgency. Failure is inevitable if you don't try. What awaits you over that threshold is hope for the ones caught in the dark. Will included. Whether you succeed or not, you have to know you did everything possible. Ava and I shared a look, an unspoken vow flickered between us in that charged moment. It was more than a pact of survival, it was a decision to fight for the person we remembered, the Will who had once dreamt with us. Clenching my fists, I felt a surge of courage flooding through me, pushing aside the shadows that lingered at the edges of my mind. Okay, I said, determination layering my tone. Well, do it. We have to try, Mira nodded, a flash of approval sparking in her expression, but then she pivoted, her body tense as more chaos erupted from down the corridor. No more time for hesitation, she warned, pulling us both forward. Stay close, and follow my lead. We rushed down the passage, the oppressive darkness amplifying every sound, the echoes of our footfalls, the way the air caught in our throats, every breath a reminder of the line we walked between danger and urgency. Just ahead, flickering lights illuminated an end wall bordered with security panels. Mira swiftly approached the panels, fingers dancing across glowing surfaces, inputting commands that momentarily rendered my mind blank. If I can just bypass the security, she muttered, glancing back at us urgently, you'll have a clear path to the hub. Panic surged through me, an overwhelming need to protect the fragile thread of hope that had begun to weave around us. What if they catch us? Then we'll face them together, she said resolutely, her eyes flickering with strength born from experience. Never lose sight of who you're fighting for, and with that, a soft beep echoed against the wall. The panels shifted, revealing a door that opened on aged, creaking hinges, a passage thick with anticipation. We stepped into the dimly lit corridor beyond, and I felt a strange mixture of fear and resolve. I couldn't let doubt creep back in. Will needed to be saved, and whatever darkness awaited us ahead was nothing compared to the weight of leaving him behind. But before we could take more than a few steps inside, the pervasive stillness shattered. A voice echoed not far from us, cold and venomous. You think you can escape that easily? Magnus' voice. My heart plummeted, recognizing the clear threat it carried. And in that moment, an alarm blurred, a shrieking warning that cut through the air, announcing our presence to the world. Ava tightened her grip on my arm as we faltered. The echoes of footsteps grew louder, reverberating in tandem with the alarm's shrill descent into chaos. Mira turned sharply, urgency igniting her expression. We need to move. Now. Then, just as we were about to bolt down the corridor, the lights dimmed, precariously flashing strobe lights illuminating shadows that flickered as if alive, weaving deeper despair into the backdrop of our panic. And in that haze of flashing lights and frantic breaths, what should have been a clear passage ahead morphed into a cacophony of confusion. Glimpses of figures began breaking through the shadows, the glint of weapons reflecting the chaotic dance of the strobe lights, piercing through the veil of darkness. Time stretched and warped as my heart pounded in my ears, a crescendo of impending doom and flickering hope. I glanced back at Mira, the fierce light in her eyes shining through the chaos, and found a sliver of resolve still shining through our fear, but as we stepped further into the tumult, I could feel the grip of fate tightening around us anew. As the shadows closed in and the chaos erupted into the light, an unexpected realization struck me: between the truth we sought and the lives we fought for, lay an intricate web of loyalties and betrayals that might forever alter everything I thought I knew. And as a voice called out from the shadows that made my breath catch, the unmistakable timbre of my chest constricted, and I realized that the truth I sought may be more painful than I had dared to imagine. The chaos around us swirled like a storm, each shouted command and muffled footfall amplifying the desperation gnawing at my insides. The flickering lights painted a surreal picture, one moment illuminating the faces of our pursuers and the next casting elongated shadows on the wall, shadows that echoed the depths of my fear. "Will!" I called out, my voice barely rising above the tumult, but the name felt like a desperate prayer more than a command. Faces blurred together, but one silhouette stood out, grounded in the chaos, the outline of a figure I thought I'd lost. "Ava, stay close!" Mira shouted as she pushed forward, her instincts guiding her through the cacophony. She was the anchor in this storm, but the longer we lingered, the more the balance tilted toward despair. "Do you see him?" I managed to whisper to Ava over the din. She shook her head, her eyes darting nervously around us, fear etched across her features, but it ignited a stubborn rage in my chest, a refusal to let this moment slip away. "We were looking for the Will who had been ensnared, not the shadows he had become. I need to break through," I said, determination hardening my resolve despite the dread squeezing my heart. "If I can just reach him, he might hear me." "Don't you dare," Ava began, but I was already stepping away from her side, drawn to the thrumming energy that radiated from the oncoming figures. In that instant, everything shifted. The lights flickered again, and amidst the chaos, I caught a glimpse of familiar features. "Will!" I screamed again, desperation weaving through my voice. The realization struck me like lightning. My Will, the man who had ventured into dreams with endless hope, stood before me, but his eyes were clouded, vacant and yet full of something darker. "Stay back!" Magnus' voice barked, seeping through the shadows, casting a chill that splintered my resolve. "He's not the man you remember." I faltered, doubt creeping in like a thief, but I forced myself onward, heart pounding with defiance. "Will! It's me. It's Elise. Remember us?" The shadows quaked as I shouted, desperately trying to reach through the murk of his transformation. The moment hung, suspended in air thick with uncertainty. For a breath, Will lifted his gaze, a flicker of recognition threading through the depths of his eyes before the veil fell once more. My heart shattered in crystalline pieces as I watched him shift. "No, stay away from me!" he snarled, the words laced with a raw entanglement of fear and fury that wasn't entirely his own. "Will!" I stepped forward, needling through the fear that gripped my heart. "We're here to help you. You have to fight this." But he recoiled as if I had struck him, an invisible barrier sealing him away from me. The pain on his face was a mirror of my own, a reminder that the truth was still muddied beneath layers of manipulation. "It's too late. Stop trying to save me," he shouted, desperation dripping from his voice. I could see the remnants of his essence fading beneath the turmoil, and the sight clawed at my heart. "No. I won't abandon you. I swear I'll pull you back from this," I cried, my breath hitching as I felt the weight of my words. The walls trembled with echoes of betrayal, our surroundings seemed to pulse with the fractured emotions that rippled between us. Magnus sneered, his figure striding forward, emboldened by Will's struggle. "He's beyond your help, girl. The TRIJETS have him. He is a vessel for their will now." Ava's fingers clutched at my arm, pulling me back. "This is not the time," she whispered urgently, her belief in the goodness still within Will radiating from her. "We have to escape, find the hub. We can still change this." But I stayed rooted, aching to reach him. "Will, you're stronger than this. You fought too hard to let them take you. I could feel the truth of my words unspooling from my heart, a lifeline thrown into the chasm between us. As if the sheer force of my conviction penetrated the darkness, a flicker of resistance ignited in his eyes again. I don't want to hurt you. He gasped, the internal war waging within him spilling over. Shadows dusking into the corners of his defiant stance. Then don't. I shouted back fiercely. Fight it. Remember who you are. You are not just a pawn. For a moment, the room teetered on the brink of revelation. Will's form trembled slightly, as if seeking a way back, but the darkness lashed out, surging with renewed fury. No. You don't understand what I've seen. What they've made me do. Magnus' mocking laughter rang out, punctuating the air with poison. You're drowning in nostalgia, Elise. He belongs to TRIJETS now. You will never win him back. A surge of indignation sparked within me, buoyed by a blend of love and defiance. I won't give up on him. Not now, not ever. And with that declaration, I prepared to dive into the chaos. But as the shadows thickened around us, enveloping Will and carving reality into something unrecognizable, I realized with dread that choice was no longer merely a matter of courage. With the alarms blaring suffocatingly close and Magnus' presence looming, I felt the walls of my world begin to shift alarmingly, a sudden twist of fate hurtling toward me with ominous purpose. I couldn't shake the sense that this battle for Will's soul wasn't just a fight to save him, it was the beginning of a spiral descent into a truth darker than either of us had ever dared to confront, and just as I opened my mouth to call out once more, the ground quaked beneath our feet, and a new figure emerged from the shadows, a silhouette familiar and yet terrifying, stepping into our midst with a smile I never thought I'd see again. The very architect of our pain, the elusive mastermind behind TRIJETS. Hello, Elise, said Livia, her voice smooth like silk yet ringing with malice. We've been waiting for you. The air thickened with tension as Livia stepped forward, an agent of nightmares clad in the guise of our past. My heart raced, caught between the recognition of a friend turned foe and the lingering hope that maybe, just maybe, there was still a flicker of the person I once knew buried deep within her. This was the orchestrator of our suffering, the hand that played with the strings of our fate, and somehow, she had come to stand before me again. Aren't you going to say hello? She teased, her voice dripping with a sweetness that cut like glass. After all, I've missed our little chats. Livia, I stammered, feeling the weight of her name hang heavily in the air. You're behind this? I could hardly breathe, the reality crashing down on me like waves. The stunned silence was suffocating, but amidst the chaos swirling around us, the confusion narrowed down to the sight of Will, still battling within the firestorm of his own mind. Oh, Elise, you give me too much credit, Livia replied, feigning innocence as she circled around us. Her gaze flickered to Will, and I could see the glint of satisfaction in her eyes. I simply provide the tools for people like him to fulfill their true potential. He's a star in my production, don't you see? Underneath that erstwhile charm lies limitless power, a masterpiece long waiting to be unveiled. Stop it. I shouted, my voice cracking as raw emotion flooded through me. He's not a tool, he's a person. You've trapped him. Will's features shifted, a moment of clarity piercing through the fog before darkness closed in again. Elise, this was always bigger than us, he gasped, his body trembling, caught between the conflict of light and dark. I can't escape, they won't let me. No. I cried, tears brimming in my eyes. You can fight this. You're stronger than you believe. Such spirit, Livia cooed mockingly, and the shadows around her curled like smoke. But that spirit comes with a cost. You think you can save him by reeling him in with nostalgia? Such a quaint notion, but as I said before, he's not just your Will anymore, is he? Whispers, visions, power, she shrugged as if casually tossing aside the remnants of his former identity. Those things can change a person. They can break a person. I felt my heart splinter further. Each word from her lips dug deeper into the cracks of hope I desperately clung to. But that doesn't mean he's lost. We have to try. I turned to Will, pleading. Please, look at me. Fight her. You don't have to become this. He blinked slowly, a flicker of understanding cutting through the turbulence in his eyes. Elise, I'm scared. His admission came out as a whisper, but it resonated like a distant bell tolling in the silence. Then don't face it alone. I stepped closer, reaching my hand out to him, desperate to span the chasm of darkness that surrounded him. Together we can find a way back. Remember us, the dreams we shared? You can overcome this. The shadows shifted, but Livia's laugh was a sharp echo in my ears. You think your devotion is enough? You think love can conquer the darkness we've introduced into his life? Love can conquer anything, I fired back, feeling the rawness of my words take wing. You're wrong, Livia. You've twisted this into something vile, manipulated our fears, thinking you can reshape who we are. But you're the one who will fail. Her amusement faded, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of concern flash across her face. That's cute. But you don't understand. Will's purpose is greater than what you and your naive belief can comprehend, and just like that, I saw it an opening. Purpose? I pressed, emboldened by the possibility of digging deeper into her facade. What purpose? To serve your twisted agenda? To become something you created? The temperature of the room shifted as the shadows quilted tighter around us, and for a moment, I could almost feel the weight of the armies behind her growing stronger. Something was clawing at the edges of Livia's confidence, and no matter how desperate the situation, I refused to concede defeat. Stop trying to manipulate me. Will's voice rose above the usual backdrop of Livia's machinations, a tempest of turmoil and defiance. His form swayed, and I saw a trace of the man I knew flickering faintly beneath the surface. I don't want this. I never wanted this, Will, please. I urged him, my heart racing. You have to fight. You're not alone anymore. For the first time, Livia flinched, her brow furrowing at his resistance. This won't end well for you, Will, she warned, her voice laced with desperation. You'll regret turning your back. Maybe it's better to get lost in a storm than drown in your raging sea, he said, his determination growing with each passing second, and I felt a spark of hope flicker to life. Was it possible he was breaking through? But Livia's expression twisted into a snarl, fury bubbling just beneath her skin. What do you think will happen when you stand against the TRIJETS? You'll return to nothingness. Maybe nothing is better than being a puppet. Will shouted, drawing strength from my presence, my heart racing as I clung to this fragile thread of hope. But in that moment of strength, I saw Livia's hands clasped together, her composure morphing back into a mask of cold certainty. Oh, but I have it all figured out, she replied, her smile sharpened into something sinister. And soon enough, you'll see just how willingly he will surrender. Before I could react, the ground shuddered violently, a wave of energy crashing against us. Will's eyes locked onto mine, a tempest of emotions swirling within them. But just as I opened my mouth to call out to him once more, the shadows surged with renewed vigor, enveloping him in a disorienting whirlpool of darkness. Will! I screamed, lunging for him, but the shadows twisted, flinging me back with a force that slammed me against the hard ground. I looked on in horror as Livia extended her hands toward him, a command hanging in the air like an ominous invocation. Let the TRIJETS awaken the true potential within you, Will, she breathed, her voice pouring over him like poison. Your pain will end, and you will see the world as it truly is. The shadows pulsed around him, coiling and writhing as his form trembled. A scream escaped my lips, a raw plea to the heavens for mercy, and just as swiftly, the room plunged into darkness, sweeping me into a chasm of Drayadon inky black that tasted faintly of despair. As silence enveloped the space, a single thought stalked through my mind: everything has changed, and now the ultimate battle for Will's soul was about to begin. The question trembled between us in the void: would I withstand the storm, or would I be swept away into oblivion with him? Darkness settled around me like a heavy cloak, still and suffocating, an absence of time and space that swirled like thick fog. All sound faded, leaving a ringing in my ears that echoed my heartbeat, a frantic drum urging me to regain my composure. Panic curled at the edges of my mind, the thought of Will lost to the shadows filling me with desperation. Will! I called out, my voice wavering, swallowed by the imposing silence. The shadows whispered back, mocking me, taunting the once vibrant connection I had with him. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, each second another mile between us. I pushed against the ground, fighting to rise, refusing to let Livia's twisted machinations keep me down. How had we reached such a point where he might surrender to her darkness? As I fought my way to my knees, memories flooded my mind. Will's laughter, the warmth of his embrace, the tenderness of shared dreams. Each recollection shone like a beacon, intertwining to form an unyielding rope that anchored me to hope. Within that hope lurked a quiet fury, igniting my resolve. A tiny flicker of light glimmered in the distance as I pulled myself upright, the shadows swirling almost sentient around me, grappling for control. The light flickered again in unexpected kindness, gentle and warm, as if it offered reassurance even amidst the ominous void. Could this light be a sign of Will's spirit reaching for me? With a heavy breath, I steadied myself and began to move towards the glow, each step feeling monumental, yet instinctively pushing me forward. Self-doubt crept at the fringes like an unwelcome shadow, murmuring that it was pointless, that I couldn't fight Livia alone. But I would not succumb to despair. I would be the hand that reached for him when the darkness sought to sever our bond. Elise? The soft sound of my name broke through the sea of shadows. My heart seized, the familiar timbre laced with confusion and fear. Will? I shouted, urgency propelling me forward. I'm here. Keep fighting. Remember us. The light pulsed, vibrant and enticing, and in its luminosity, I could discern forms, flickers of movement amidst the chaos. I strained to focus, the air thick with energy, shadows elongating and receding as if they were alive, battling against the very essence of hope I carried. Livia, she's Will's voice faltered, the uncertainty palpable. I can't see you. Everything is dark, and it hurts. I know, love, but you're stronger than her. I pressed onward, weaving through the encroaching shadows, pressing in on me, yearning desperately to reach him. Fight back. She's lying to you. It's all a trap to break you apart. Trapped, he echoed, the word imbued with a growing sense of despair mixed with fleeting clarity. I don't want to be what they made me. The light surged, illuminating a silhouetted figure struggling against the confinement of dark tendrils that coiled around him like a malignant embrace. My heart ached to see him so ensnared, but his spirit flickered within the storm, the glimmer of hope reminding me of the man he once was. Yes, Will. Remember who you are. My voice pierced the oppressive air, bursting forth with the fervor of a prayer. You're not just a tool, you're a human being with dreams and desires. You are loved. Fight against the darkness. The shadows hissed and writhed in retaliation, but against their fierce resistance, my words pushed forth another wave of warmth, wrapping around the light surrounding him. I felt a pulse, a tiny spark illuminating the tendrils bracing against him. Together can we? Elise, I'm so scared. His voice trembled, wavering as the shadows pressed closer, but beneath the terror, I caught the barest hint of hope. Together. I reaffirmed, anchoring my determination to his. Breathe, Will. Picture our dreamsway can still build our future. You're not alone in this fight. Just reach out. With every ounce of emotion, I poured my love and conviction into the light, willing it to swell and break through the darkness. The shadows screamed, recoiling, their whispers fading into a cacophony of frantic sounds. Let go of him. I shouted with all my might, my words a fierce declaration of defiance. But before I could see his reaction, the ground shook violently once again, sending me stumbling backward. A sudden rush of air whipped around us, a powerful gust that seemed to sing with life and death at once. With it came a piercing shriek that twisted my good, a voice echoing through the darkness so distorted it felt like a dagger aimed at my very soul. Elise. I froze, hearing the name fraught with a menacing undertone. The shadows coalesced around me, swirling like a storm of malice, and in that fraught moment, a chilling truth settled in with cold certainty, the revelation of another watching, lurking, their presence adding more layers of complexity to my tenuous quest. Before I could confirm the source of the dread that permeated the air, a burst of relentless energy surged through the void, lifting me and Willip into the unknown, where I was lost to a greater darkness, a world where even the light struggled to penetrate. Will! My scream fell into the helpless abyss, swallowed by the shadows and the secrets they held. My body jolted awake, breathless and disoriented, as if I had just resurfaced from drowning. Darkness still clung to me like a shroud, but I felt another presence. A flicker of warmth seeped into my core, tugging me back to reality. Elise. The voice wafted through the hazy. It was Will, his voice softer now, but threaded with something more potent. Something that stirred beneath the shadows. I'm here. Please, just hold on. My heart tightened as clarity began to weave through the tendrils of despair lingering around us. In the dimness, I could see him straining against those malevolent shadows that wrapped him tightly. But something had shifted, determination flickered in his eyes, matching the clarity radiating from mine. What's happening? His voice was barely a whisper, battling against the darkness suffocating him. They're trying to control you, Will. But I know you. You're stronger than them. We're stronger together. Stepping closer, my hand reached out as the shadows writhed in agony, stinging my skin. You have to fight. Just remember who you are. I could feel the currents of the moment shifting. Gritting my teeth, I pushed through the pain, illuminating the space with every thought of what we had built. 1,000 memories surged through me like urgent waves. Your laughter, the adventures we dreamt of, how you fought for every single dream. You were never a soldier, you were always an artist at heart. His face flickered with a hint of recognition, like a lighthouse cutting through fog. Elise, I can't breathe. Breathe with me. I implored, inhaling deeply, forcing hope into the space between us. We can do this together. You just have to let go of what they want you to be, and then, as if my words ignited a firestorm within him, Will lunged forward. The tendrils recoiled momentarily, caught off guard by his resolve. I refused to be their puppet. His voice rang out, resonating deep within our shared light, battling against the thrall of despair. With a sudden surge, he began to break free, and the shadows shrieked, twisting angrily around him as if attempting to reclaim their lost prisoner. No! Livia's distant voice thundered through the chaos, each syllable saturated with fury and fear. You were meant for something greater. Lies! I shouted, shoving against the darkness surrounding him. What you think is power is just a prison. The light between us intensified, encompassing everything as Will's memories began swirling, forming a shield against the encroaching shadows. In that moment, everything crystallized. The truth of who he truly was began pushing back against the darkness that sought to engulf him. Look at me. Focus. I was breathless, the strength of my declaration pulling him closer to freedom. With your art. With your dreams. That's who you really are. A raw emotion churned in his eyes, a cascade of memories and dreams melding into strength as he tore away the last of the shadows that clung to him. Elise! He cried, his arm reaching toward me now, and I felt a wave of warmth radiating from his spirit, beckoning me forth. Take my hand. I shouted through the chaos, feeling an electric current coursing between us, fueled by love and indomitable will. The distance between us evaporated as he reached toward me, shadows dissipating into wisps of nothingness, retreating against our luminous force. In an explosion of light, the tendrils fell away, dissolving into the ether, trapped by the grip of truth. As our hands finally met, a blinding surge cascaded around us, in a fusion of power, unity, and love resonating through every fiber of my being. I'm free, Will said, his voice stripped of all weakness. And at that moment, Livia's voice rose once more, a tempest of fury and defeat. You can't escape your destiny. This isn't over. No, it is over. Will's voice held a certain strength as he pressed forward, a newfound determination shaping his very essence into something unstoppable. Together, we surged toward her, intertwining our strengths, ready to confront the very force that had sought to tear us apart. Then it happened. A moment of clarity pierced through the shadows that loomed, an unlikely resolution flooding through me. Will, what if we use the TRIJETS against them? His eyes widened, a flicker of understanding illuminating his features. You mean turn their own weapon against them? Yes. If we can harness the truth, we can expose everything Livia has done. Shadows swirled as we exchanged glances, an unspeakable pact tethering us together as we fought against the remnants of darkness. Together? He asked, the raw power of our connection electric in the stillness that lingered. Together. I affirmed confidently. The shadows around us trembled, and with that strength converging, we charged toward Livia, who recoiled despite herself, the walls of TRIJETS tremoring as she matched our fierce resolve. Awaken! I shouted, surging through the darkness with full force as we reached into the very heart of TRIJETS. In that moment, the air thickened with potential, our love and unity bursting forward like a beacon. The abyss echoed our cries, heart and soul combining to wield power upon the darkness, transforming it into something beautiful. It was a moment of realization, a feeling of love. Livia's expression contorted, the realization dawning that she had underestimated the strength of our bond. No. You can't. But the shadows collapsed, swallowed by the light emanating from us, consuming everything she had built, spiraling into nothingness. And then, with a final rush of energy, the blinding illumination engulfed us, swallowing the shadows whole. As the chaos turned to silence, I looked at Will, the man who had fought darkness and emerged intact. My heart swelled with gratitude as the warmth radiated between us, a tangible bond that transcended the chaos. We did it, I breathed, still catching my breath amidst the echoes of the past, but beyond the shadows, beyond the curtain of TRIJETS, life beckoned. A new dawn filled with uncharted dreams awaited us. Together, we'll create a new future, Will said, a bright smile reaching his eyes, full of hope and promise. And as we stepped toward that new horizon, hand in hand a final warmth enveloped us, the whisper of love echoing across time. We had unraveled the shadows that sought to divide us, and in that tenuous moment, I knew it was never just about TRIJETS. It had always been about user choice to believe in love, to hope for tomorrow. I turned to Will, feeling the full weight of our journey wrapped within that gaze as we stepped forward together. Let's paint a new masterpiece. In that single moment, understanding flooded through Mizamatimes. The journey to transforming destiny isn't about running from the past, it is ultimately about embracing what is still to come, guided by the unshakable bonds we have woven amidst life's chaos. The echo of our unyielding resolve, a testament to love, and, hand in hand, we moved into the light, ready to embrace the future, our hearts forever entwined.